Ladies and gentlemen, let's firstly welcome the Premier Lin Quan to the stage to give us a talk. 我们掌声欢迎林权院长。
今天的主办单位伊甸基金会的叶董事长，还有我们台湾大学社会科学院的苏院长，我们行政院卫福部的林部长，还有我们大院
Science Department, Minister of the Ministry of Welfare and Health, Legislator Wang, Dean Emeritus Mickley from the UC Berkeley, Professor Cooper, Dean Leila Patel from the South Africa office, Musa Wankosi, Norm Afni. Welcome everyone to today's event, the International Conference on Developmental Social Work. I know today we have many social workers and academics, professionals from internationally and locally. Over the next 2 days, we will be able to share some very insightful presentations and discussions on social work. First of all, on behalf of our government and our people, I would like to extend the most sincere welcome to all of you. Also, I would also like to extend my gratitude to all the professionals, include our frontline workers and all those who lobby for the rights of the vulnerable and disadvantaged. Thank you for your contributions. One of today's organizers is Eden Foundation. Eden Foundation is a long-established and esteemed and accomplished social welfare organization in Taiwan. I was told that this year marks the 35th anniversary of the foundation. In the last 35 years, we have witnessed a lot of meaningful contributions to the vulnerable in Taiwan, especially the persons with disability. In addition, Eden also helps the government with implementing many relevant projects. As I know, Eden has many sites in Taiwan and 2,800 workers participating in their work. And what is even more valuable is almost 20% of Eden's employees are persons with disability. Also, the foundation has sites in many cities in Malaysia, Vietnam, and other places in Southeast Asia. The other organizer is the National Taiwan University NTU Social Work Department. They have educated many students who, after graduation, dedicated themselves to this field. So, for Taiwan, they have contributed a lot of talent and as well as their own commitment. Today's conference is especially meaningful. The topic is developmental social work. This theme is not only developing individual social work areas, but also to leverage the power of organizations and community to increase the reach of our work and also synergy. So by organizing everyone together, we are able to adapt to changes in social structure. This is also reflected in the government's policies. When I entered the room, I was asked by the media about our recent long-term care 2.0 project. And this is an idea we want to to promote throughout the country. In fact, in a lot of developed countries, they already have this kind of system in place, and we are just starting it. The idea is to use community, neighborhoods, and boroughs as the starting point to promote mental and physical welfare. And this will help us build community-based welfare service system. Our long-term welfare corresponds to the theme of developmental social work. Of course, the promotion of social welfare faces a lot of challenges in the future. One of them is something we have to pay special attention to. The first one is the impact of globalization. Globalization helps reduce the gap between rich and poor countries. On the other hand, it also inevitably increases the gap between the rich and poor inside the country, and that creates a disadvantaged group within the country, and we see aggravating signs. So in the future, the government needs to have policies addressing these issues. However, the government cannot do this alone. We will have to rely on help from the private sector as well. Furthermore, another challenge we face is, as we see ahead of us, in the future there is going to be change in our industrial structure, what I call the Industrial 4.0 or the Fourth Industrial Revolution. What that signifies is a lot of production is going to be replaced using machine and automation, so that will have an impact on workers and employment opportunities. On the other hand, the advance of smart technology also help us conserve the vulnerable better. So the industrial structural change is going to impact many aspects of our society. These challenges are some of the ones we have identified in the future. We hope by addressing these challenges, we can convert them to opportunities and improve our service on everyone in our society. Social work is about ensuring the basic needs and basic rights of every person in the society and to ensure dignity for all. Facing the industrial structural change, globalization challenges, how will we tackle these problems and issues? These are something government and the private sector and NGOs are going to have to work together. Today's conference covers a lot of these topics, including immigrants, migrants, and also disaster response. Some of these haven't appeared often in social work-related events, so I'm glad to see them being addressed. So once again, I'd like to thank the organizers for your dedication and all the professionals and colleagues for attending. I wish this conference every success.
谢谢林权院长之后，要有请立法院吴玉琴委员上台来为我们进行我们是掌声有请吴玉琴委员。Ladies and gentlemen, next to begin the talk, please welcome Mr. Wu to the stage.
I am very honored to have the opportunity to come to Eden and the NTU's event. I am a social worker myself, so I am very delighted to be part of this topic, and I want to thank all the good friends for being part of this event. I just became a legislator in February. In the past, I was Secretary General at the Elderly's Welfare Organization for 19 years. 2 weeks ago, the Employment Service Act was passed, which means the foreign workers don't have to leave the country for a visa every 3 years. And they asked me why I tackled on such a difficult issue right at the beginning of our term. This was a very difficult clause to pass because there was a lot of pressure from the foreign workers agent, and I received a lot of blackmail from the agents when I put this proposal forward. This kind of clause, in some ways, is violating the rights of our foreign workers, because every 3 years they have to spend money on returning to their home country and then pay the agent another fee. So as soon as I became a legislator, I decided to tackle on this problem of exploitation. Perhaps it was because of the change in political power or help from other legislators. We saw a decrease in pressure and lobbying from the agents, so we were able to pass it. The second topic is the issue of long-term care. Long-term care 2.0 is going to be launched next year. Now what we're going to have to deal with is the funding source and also the institutional related issues. And we are going to review that next week. I am responsible for convening the committee on this topic, and so it's a very important topic that has received a lot of attention. One of the topics also discussed today is the injustice in information or gaps in information. And so in addition to long-term care, I am even more concerned with service for the rural area, and especially long-term care sites for them. This isn't a part that's often neglected in our long-term care. We have indigenous communities and also rural communities which are harder to reach, and they often have most of their younger working population have moved into the city. So this is one of the key challenges to ensure that we have the young working population return to these Aboriginal communities and serve the elderly. So we want to ensure there are local employment opportunities available to bring them back into their home community. So this is part of the key point in the long-term care 4.0 to ensure a self-helping neighborhood-based system in long-term care with the assistance of the government. We are about to launch it, so we face a lot of difficulty in terms of manpower and also acquiring the facilities and space. Yesterday, we heard a lot of criticism on empty facilities not being used, so we can think about how to convert these disused facilities into long-term care locations. It is with great delight that I attend today's event, and if I could be of any assistance, I am happy to help you. I know our social workers have a lot of issues that you want to lobby. I will help you present this to the premier. I have to go into an interpolation session with him tomorrow, so I will relay that matter tomorrow right away. So on behalf of the social work field, I am very happy to be your voice in the legislative end. Thank you, legislator. Thank you for having dedicated yourself to this topic over the years.
Next, we would like to welcome the Deputy Representative of the Australian Office, Ms. Patricia Smith, also to say a few words. 那接下来呢，我们掌声有请到的办事处的副代表上台来和我们说几句话。 好，掌声欢迎。
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, 大家好. It is an absolute privilege to represent the Australian office at such an important and timely conference. I'm particularly pleased to be not one but four representatives of Australia's University of Wollongong here today. And I'm particularly pleased to hear that Australia's Nicola plant played a role in getting them here, so that's really wonderful to see. Professor Leslie Cooper, Dr. Amy Tommy Wright, Dr. Linda Peters and Dr. Peter Canary, welcome to Taiwan and happy to join us. As we all know, social justice challenges are a common feature of society worldwide. I'm very pleased to see a sub-theme this year on disaster prevention and management. Australia, like Taiwan, faces numerous natural disasters every year. Having lived in Taiwan for 4 years now, I've been so impressed with the resilience of the Taiwan people every time a typhoon comes crashing through, uprooting roads and buildings, flooding towns, and sending mudslides down the steep mountainside. Or an earthquake shakes the foundation of the cities. I have to admit I haven't quite got used to the earthquakes yet. Building stronger and more resilient communities is a constantly important challenge. In the same way, Australian communities band together every time there's a drought or a bushfire or a flood, and we do these things on an annual basis, unfortunately. So it's great to see lessons being learned and shared in that way. The focus on early childhood is also wonderful to see, and the parents of small children is certainly among so many wordy things, it's very difficult to pick and choose the most important to highlight, or such essential discussions as we collectively build the fabric of our future societies, and all will help to build a world that we will pass on to our children and the next generation. In that spirit, I wish every single panel and discussion of this conference every possible success, and look forward to ongoing cooperation in this important field. 祝大家身体健康，万事如意。
Thank you so much to the Deputy Representative of Australian Office, Ms. Patricia Smith. Thank you. 非常谢谢澳洲办事处副代表史佩西女士的致辞，谢谢。那接下来呢，我要有请主办单位上台来为各位致辞哦。我们要欢迎的是台湾大学社会工作学系郑立谦教授，掌声欢迎。Please welcome Professor Li Zhengzheng, Department of Social Work, National Taiwan University.
各位international guests welcome， 还有各位来参加这个会议的朋友，大家好哈。那我本人非常高兴代表台大社工系。
Like that, I come here on behalf of our department to show the importance we attach to this event. We have organized events with Eden for the third straight edition. I started this collaboration first as a dean of the department. The reason we work together with Eden is because social work is the foundation, and the foundation is actual implementation and practice. So through this kind of meeting, we want to be able to convert all the experience into knowledge to be shared on the meeting, and also through exchange with each other to be able to document this kind of knowledge. Therefore, our department feels responsibility for being part of this kind of effort. So we are delighted to work with Eden to bring the academia and industry to share the experience and build on the knowledge bank. So I can only represent part of the organizers, but I stand here to once again welcome all of you, all the invited distinguished guests, presenters, and guests. We hope that today's meeting, like the previous two, will be very fruitful.
We would like to welcome the member of Board of Directors from Eden Social Welfare Foundation。那接下来呢，我们要有请另外一个共同主办单位伊甸社会福利基金会黄秉德常务董事也上台来为我们致辞，我们掌声欢迎。Please welcome the member of Board of Directors Eden Social Welfare Foundation, 秉德黄 to also say a few words on behalf of the co-organizer.
Before I start, I'd like to ask our chairman to greet everyone.
I have asked Mr. Ye to say hello to you, and my job is to do the simulation and, about what I want to say to you. I will use mainly Chinese. 亲爱的行政院长、行政院民情院长王玉敏
Dear Premier, legislators,
社大署简慧娟主教
Director Jen from the Ministry of Welfare and Health, and Mr. Zenki Norma from the South Africa office, Ms. Patricia Smith from the Australian office, dear friends, distinguished guests, good morning. I sincerely welcome everyone to the event organized by Eden Foundation and National Taiwan University Social Department. This marks the third time we are co-hosting the International Conference on Developmental Social Work on the topic of Global Application Developmental Dialogue. We are delighted to have prestigious speakers, including from the UC Berkeley, the Dean Emeritus, Mr. James Migley. From the South Africa, Johannesburg University Social Development Research Center, Leila Patel. From the Australian Wollongong University Social Work Department, Leslie Cooper. Thank you for being part of this event. Beginning from 2013, Eden Foundation has begun our first forum in developmental social work, and we hope to give special thanks to the National Taiwan University Social Work Department and also UC Berkeley School of Social Welfare, Professor Chow, Julian Chow, for helping us empower issues and for a platform to help female migrant workers in China and help them reduce pressure in male adaptation issues when they are working away from home, as well as implementing the social work ideas of developmental social work on issues like employment, counselors, social workers, and counseling psychologists, and having forums and workshops for them in order to increase our reach from Taiwan to global communities. We believe through this conference we will be able to engage in a conversation both in breadth and depth based on our different experiences and perspectives, and we will also be able to combine opinions from various fields in order to expand brand new perspectives and innovative thinking for developmental social work entrance. Finally, I hope the conference
Okay, everyone, and before we move on to the keynote speech, what's different about our conference is that we would like to bring you some music in the beginning, alright? 那接下来呢，我们正式进入这个大会的议程之前呢，我们首先呢要有请我们的伊甸盲人喜恩合唱团，再加上呢我们在台上呢还有身心障碍的代表以及新住民的代表，要为我们带来奇异恩典这首歌。We would like to firstly pray to God and our Joy Choir from the Eden Social Welfare Foundation and also the representatives of the new immigrants of Taiwan and also children with learning disabilities will be bringing to you Amazing Grace. Please give them a big round of applause. 首先，掌声欢迎他们，为我们带来精彩的演出。 Amazing Grace。再次谢谢我们的伊甸喜恩合唱团，以及我们看到在这个台前的有我们的新住民的代表、我们的原住民的代表、身心障碍者的代表，以及迟缓儿童的代表。Thank you so much for bringing us such a beautiful song. Thank you. 那我们首先第一个场次呢，专题演讲要有请到我们的主持人，首先来我们的引言，并且呢介绍我们的讲师。For this session, ladies and gentlemen, please join me personally welcoming your moderator, Dr. Yu Wenguo.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very delighted to have this opportunity to host this section because most of our participants speak local language, so basically I will use Mandarin to host this section. Yesterday when I talked to Jin last night to accept his permission to use Mandarin to give to introduce him. So start from early in the morning till now, and later on we have 2 days. We will talk about the developmental social works. Actually, this is a very unusual opportunity. Thank you. Actually, this is a very unusual opportunity. We have gathered experience around the world and we have knowledge in developmental social works from the academic sector as well as practical fields. So talking about developmental social works, perhaps you all know Dr. James mentioned. So he's from University of California, Berkeley. He's Dean Emeritus School of Social Welfare since the 90s, and he's dedicated on the development of social work. So such a concept has received attention from international organizations such as United Nations as well as World Bank. The concept of social work really covers a broad range of the fields, from the policy, from the government up, or from the bottom-less practical work and applications, from Eden Foundation or other various organizations as well as international communities. Actually, we also learn from his concept and benefit from his expertise and advices. So with that, we need to think about how to enhance the concept of social works to apply either in Taiwan as well as our Chinese neighbors, neighboring Chinese community. And it's a very good thing. So we have a little bit of delay originally when I told Jin that he will have about 55 minutes to present his talks, but a little bit worried or concerned that we have a tight schedule. So nevertheless, I mean, if we have additional times, if you are interested in James' talk, if you want to raise questions and ask his advice, we will definitely try to find some time for interactions. But fortunately, we have 2 days, so either Jim or other speakers from the abroad or local to interact with you.
OK，
So
那我想这个
without further ado,
接着，那我们
let's welcome Dr. James Mitchell.
All right, so let me thank Professor Koo again for the very nice introduction. I would also like to thank the Eden Foundation for inviting me and our other colleagues like Julian and Jason who helped me getting through the airport yesterday. It was, from Shanghai, it was, if you've been in Shanghai, you will know that you have to wait about 1 hour to get through security. And because I have a bad leg, I was limping a lot, so they put me in a wheelchair, and we all three of us went boom, 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 right through very quickly. So it was very nice. So thank you, Julian, for all your support. I also want to say how good it is to see many old friends here from Taiwan National University, Professor Koo, Professor Li Chen, Joyce Ben, I'm not sure if they're here, but the other professors who have always been very generous to me when we have visited. And it's very good to see friends from many countries before, particularly Leda Patel, Professor Patel, and Amy Conley, who was my student that was honored to be her advisor when she was in her doctoral program. And, Peter, I have not seen for many years. It's very nice to see you again and then to meet the other colleagues. And I know there are other colleagues here from China and from Hong Kong. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to come together and share our knowledge and experiences. And when this mic's a bit low, and that's better. Is that better? Yeah, because I was hearing. Okay, good. So the topic of developmental social work is actually been of great interest to me for many, many years. I actually retired from Berkeley in June of this year after 49.5 years of being in the academic business. And when I was thinking about the presentation today, I was hoping you don't mind if I go back in my memory and reminisce a little bit. You know, old men love to sit and talk about the past and reminisce about the past. So I thought I would put it in the context of my own experience. When I graduated as a young social worker with lots of excitement and enthusiasm from the University of Cape Town in the 1960s. And I got a job, and my job was to be the social worker working in a very, very poor neighborhood. And most of the people there lived in little shanty huts, no electricity, no roads, no clean water, very few schools, mass poverty. Of course, these families had many problems of child neglect, substance abuse, mental health problems. And my job as a social worker was to try to help solve these problems. Well, I can tell you now it was an impossible job. Because what did I do? It's okay, I can manage. If I get tired, I'll sit down. Thank you very much. Thanks, Julie. It was an impossible job. I found that because many of our cases were statutory cases required under the law, particularly child neglect cases and substance abuse cases where the children were at risk, then we had to deal with the problem. And how did we deal with the problem? We took the child away from the family and put it in a residential institution. Went to the court, magistrate, judge gave an order, and this was my job. Just taking children, moving the files, putting children in the institution. We had many young offender, gang member. And I realized after about 1 year, 18 months, this is impossible. This I cannot do, because I am not doing anything as a social worker to address the fundamental problem of poverty and deprivation, especially in the society, the apartheid society of South Africa that I grew up in. So I decided social work's not for me. I want to be sociologist. So I went back to the university, did a master's degree in sociology, started work on a PhD, and then I had a very lucky opportunity. The London School of Economics, very famous professor Richard Titmuss, he invited me to join the faculty of the London School of Economics and Social Policy. Because he was starting a new program for social work, social welfare, social policy for developing countries. And I said, well, that would be wonderful to come to London School, my gosh, but I don't know anything about developing countries. He said, never mind, you come from Africa, so you will be fine. Anyway, I had to just jumping in the water, in the pool, swimming pool, and learn how to swim very quickly. But I was very lucky because we had a number of students, most were older than me at that time, who came from countries all over the world. And many of them, I realized when we were having the classes, they have the same experience I have. They don't know how we can deal with the problem of poverty. Of course, it needs major structural reform. It needs economic development. But we are social workers. We are not working in the high level of economic planning. So we will have many discussions. And I was also very lucky because at that time, I was able to travel. The British government sent me to Indonesia. I went to the Philippines, some African countries. I was working with the World Bank in West Africa and Sierra Leone. And although many social workers were saying, we don't know how to solve these problems, some of them actually were experimenting with new approaches. And the new approaches in the Philippines, I will show the slide, in India, in Africa, were, as the minister said this morning, with your program for long-term care, community-based. We find the solution, if we can, in the community. Number two, we have to address livelihoods, income problems. That always for us in social work is not our department, right? We just do with the mental health or the substance abuse, not livelihoods. But we realize that we have to join forces with those people who are involved in livelihoods. And the third idea that came was we have to invest in people. Not just take them to the residential institutions or maybe give them some small charity money from the government. We have to invest in what Professor Sen calls the capabilities so that people can participate in the productive economy and enjoy a good life. And slowly, 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 as I traveled over many years and met many people, I became very inspired what I saw was happening in the Philippines, in India, in Africa, in Latin American countries, in South Africa. And I began to, I'm not a very good photographer, but I had a little old camera. Those days, you actually one time I took a lot of pictures, I forgot to put the film inside the camera. So when I opened it to show the film, nothing was there. Now today, of course, with smartphones, it's not a problem anymore. But I have collected from my visits, maybe over 30 years, many examples of how in many countries, social workers are beginning, well not beginning now, I think they are doing it in a big way, and I think many of you who are here today are already doing developmental social work. But these slides will give you some ideas. I've organized them under different headings, really around the idea of investment. Investing in young people, investing in children, investing in community networks, and investing in livelihoods, employment, self-employment, income generation, and investing in assets. Because these investments all help families to cope better. Second thing, a very strong emphasis on prevention. I was going into the social work services in a crisis mode. We are rescue, crisis, not prevention. Even today, my colleagues at Berkeley say we should do more in prevention. It is true. This model that is being used in developmental social work shows us the importance of prevention. However, there's one caveat I want to make, and I will talk about it again. This does not mean that social work gives up and forgets about these traditional activities. We are known because we do child welfare. We have international reputation because we work in mental health, in problem areas. Now, many of my colleagues, when we began in the 1980s to discuss development, said, oh no, we mustn't do that. We must just do community development. Don't worry about mental health, don't worry about child welfare, that's not developmental social work. What we have learned from our colleagues around the world, you can do child welfare in a developmental way. And Amy has actually published a very good paper just about that topic, how we can do conventional child welfare using the community setting. So I'd like to show you the slides. Oh, let me just say this, that when Amy was getting ready to graduate at Berkeley, I told her, I said, you know, I would really like to do a book about developmental social work because there isn't much. Leila has written a book in South Africa about developmental social work. But I'm too busy, I told Amy. I can't do it. And Amy said, don't worry, I will do all the hard work. Isn't that a wonderful PhD student to have like that? So I'll do the hard work. I said, okay, let's do it. So we produced a book for Oxford University Press in 2010 called Social Work and Social Development. What's the actual title? I have to write it. Theories and Skills for Developmental Social Work. And we were very lucky because Professor Rosa Lu, and I don't think she's attending the conference, here in Taiwan, she translated the book into Gutenberg. And we are very lucky that, and actually that is the reason that I'm here, because she had translated the book. So I also want to thank her and thank Amy and thank everybody else. And I hope in the few days we will have together, that I can learn from you, because I know that many of the activities I will show on the slides you are doing already. Okay, now we have a little problem because I've been told, yes, thank you, that's good, thank you. I've been told that they're going to ring a bell. So the bell goes ding, 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 it's not a fire alarm. It's to tell me I have to stop. Now, Mr. Joseph Cheng told me, you have 90 slides. How can you show 90 slides in 1 hour? And the answer is I don't know. But we're going to try and see what we can do with the slides. If I have to stop, we will stop. I will maybe go a little fast, but just illustrate some of the points. Now, let me just be sure to move this along, just page down. Change page down. Oh, yeah, that one. All right, so you can read that there. While I get some water. And I contrast in the slides, I actually have slides. I remember going to Thailand maybe about 10 years ago, and every time I travel and I want to learn about social welfare, I get taken to a residential institution. And we went to, I took some slides, a residential facility for young boys who are naughty boys. You know, that residential institution is out in the countryside. It's beautiful. It's built with the German aid money, all kinds of nice facilities. But these young children, young boys are being taken away from family, away from the community. And so this emphasis that we have on residential services, social assistance payments very limited, and a lot of casework counseling is the conventional approach that I use. Now, I'm not saying this is bad. In fact, I have written that I think there are people who need some psychological help. We can't say, oh no, we are doing development, we don't care about your mental health problems. But we have to find a balance, and again, to repeat what I said, we have to see if we can provide the mental health service, not in residential facility, not in the office, but in the community. So developmental social work programs that we wrote in the book are community-based. They are a strengths-based model looking at strengthening capabilities. We are very concerned with livelihoods and income. So we try to link a social program with an economic activity, and I will show many examples. We are contributing to the development effort of the country. Many ministers say, well, we like social welfare because we have to care for poor people, but we can't afford programs. Well, how about if you invest in people and that investment generates a return that actually makes a profit for the government? You are not now having to do charity for poor people. You are investing in the same way that we invest in schools and universities and technology. I am a very old-fashioned Fabian socialist, so I believe the state must be involved. The market right tells me, oh, just let people get educated and they can take care of themselves. We need a framework of public social services that would support the developmental model. Okay, the four main types of programs, and this is where I draw on economic theory. We didn't know this till the 1960s, when people like Professor Schultz at Chicago, Professor Heckman, Professor Becker, all talked about investing in knowledge and skills produces rates of return, right, to the individual as well as to the society. Schultz was particularly strong on that. And he showed in many experiments that when the government invests in education, in nutrition, in healthcare, that has a wider economic impact for the society. Of course, employment and self-employment, livelihoods is a second feature. Social capital, based on the theories of Professor Putnam and many others, used by the World Bank extensively, that if we strengthen community networks and we get people involved, that has positive implications for economic development. And finally, asset building. Our friend Professor Sheridan has done so much work about individual assets, but I also talk about the community assets, what the community owns as an asset. Okay, let's go quickly, because the three I want to do is child welfare, livelihoods, and then community social capital and assets. So, in traditional child welfare, residential care, we still use that today. Foster care, counseling, adoption, yes, if that we need to do that, we need to do that. But how about looking at a different model in developmental terms about using a daycare center, a childcare center in the community, run and operated by the community members, by the mothers, by the families, with support from the government. The emphasis on early childhood education is a long-term investment, but the key here for social work, that actually if you do community-based around daycare center, you can also do remedial child welfare and preventive child welfare. I will explain in a moment. Public investments. So the daycare model, the center of this approach is the daycare center. So I was very impressed when I went to the Philippines. And the Philippines actually became a leader in the United Nations on developmental social work and developmental social welfare. And they changed the name of their old public welfare department that they got from the US Times, to Ministry of Welfare and Development. And they have a way of, which is very good, I think, doing needs assessments. This is a chief social worker on the right, and the red dress was my student in London, and she's one of the managers and planners. The first thing they do is they do surveys of the whole province. This is one of the provinces north of Manila, and they find where is the biggest problem. The red area is where they have highest infant mortality. They can find the statistics because they have to register death of children. So they know that area is where they should concentrate their programs, the developmental programs. So we went to one of the towns in the red area, and we crossed the bridge, and you can see all the huts and shanty towns built along the river. And look at that. Now, when I was working in Cape Town as a young social worker, I knew if you see it look like that, this is a very poor community, and there's high infant mortality and high child neglect and deprivation. So we walked down, we turned left at the end of the road, and look what we found. A daycare center. And look at the children. Huh? They all look very well, very healthy, very clean dressed. So what happens is the social workers go into a poor community and they talk to the mothers. And they tell the mothers, most of the mothers are working, domestic servants or selling on the street as vendors. The mothers, if we can make a daycare center, we will provide a teacher. Actually, it's a paraprofessional, but they say teacher because the people understand that. They can teach the children, and we will give them some food, and then we like to have the mother help us as a volunteer. Well, the mothers actually like this idea because every day when they go to work, who take care of the children? So maybe an older daughter is taken out of school to take care of the child, or maybe they give to the neighbor or to some relative. But now, the government is saying, we can do this for you. So in this one was quite a new daycare center. No building, they just use the road, and they have some very interesting tarpaulin, like tent for rain, and they pull it out, and every day the children come. And then they get their lunch. Now they get soup, protein-reinforced soup. Okay? Because actually, we think in child welfare, the biggest problem is child abuse, No, actually the biggest problem is death. Right? The biggest problem is death. And it is part of our job as social workers to prevent death. And malnutrition among these small children, particularly protein deficiency, causes kwashiorkor and long-term disability and death. So just giving the soup every day, or they get fish, or they have some kind of stew with good vegetables. And this actually is one of the mothers. She told me she works one day a week in the center, other day she is on the streets selling, she's a businesswoman, and then she knows her child is, 2 children, I think, is safe, and then another mother comes the next day. So these are the social workers. It was very interesting in the Philippines at that time, they don't do anymore, but the social workers all wore red colors. So when they go to the community, you know, like the nurse always wears a white, so the social worker wore red. So they can see, oh, that's a social worker. That was the idea. So they are meeting with the nutritionist and they are planning. Now you have a managing social worker, usually master's level, running a whole team, maybe running 10 different daycare centers. And again, very interesting, because they know after the children come regularly, which child is not coming regularly. Which child is coming with bruise, okay, or beat marks, or which child is sick all the time. Then this gives the grassroots paraprofessional send a referral to the master's level social worker. We think there's a problem with that family. And so they go and visit the family. And so now they're doing community-based prevention, but also doing remedial child abuse in a different way than I did, which was take the child and put in the institution. Okay, we have to go quickly now. So this is a daycare center in the fishing village that actually was established about 5 years before. Interesting thing, the mothers give the lead, but then the men wonder, oh, we are getting a school in the village. So they support. And in this fishing village, the men came and built the center. And there you can see the children in the school with a paraprofessional teacher. Of course, they're more interested in having a picture taken and having the teacher teach them. And here, they have some of the mothers coming for nutritional demonstration. It's actually, I always remember, in Cape Town when I was practicing, we had so much malnutrition. And the mothers used to feed the children a high-resin squash, high fiber, because it filled their tummy and they don't cry. But no nutritional value. So they teach the mothers, you can use the vegetables but put in some fish so that the child gets protein. So this is just an example that the mothers are helping to prepare the lunch. Now we go to India, and in India you'll see this, the city of Rohtak in northern India. This is actually an interesting photograph of how the social worker makes the entry point into the community. She comes every day to this particular place in the town. And she's actually there with, can you see the green, show the greenish, sorry, I had a pointer. But you can see she is the social worker and she has a paraprofessional. And these young women are coming. Don't worry, they can see. You can see the green social worker. Okay, thank you. And every day she comes in with bread. Now that bread looks like American supermarket bread, which I don't like. But because they bring it like it's American social food. Okay. Yeah, okay, there she is. There she is in her. I don't know, Chris had the slide goes off. And that's a help for that. So these young women, marriage age in India is still quite low, although it's rising. But they will come there, and sometimes the older daughter will come and collect the bread. The thing about the bread is actually protein reinforced. And what they do is they get the bread to the families, and the families say, oh, this bread is coming from the American supermarket. Oh, it must be very good, right? Mistaken idea, but it gets them to use it. And they are checking. Now, that is just the entry point. She will go to talk to the mothers. She will meet with the mothers. And then they will, let's have a daycare center. Let's organize a daycare center where we can take care of the children. And that's what happened. Actually, a landlord in the town donated some land to the daycare center. And there are the children and the playground. Actually, it was more than 40 degrees the day I was there, so the children were playing outside. But the social worker in the green told me that when she has access to the community and she's able to network with the mothers and they meet with the mothers, then she can talk about things that you're not allowed to talk about. Domestic abuse. My husband beat me. You can't say in the community about that. But in a private meeting with the mothers, you can say. Contraception, family planning, education of young teenage girls, arranged marriage. All these things they can discuss. And she told me that many times she had really moving exchanges and she can help families, and particularly young girls. Then they also have been getting the men organized, so the men support. And I actually don't have slides of this, but there was a group of men I talked to, and they say, when we find out that a child is being abused or the wife is being beaten by the husband, we go there, 5 of us, and we tell this man, don't do this, because you are a man, and men don't beat women, and don't beat child. So it was really interesting dealing with domestic abuse, using the community as the entry point. Okay, I want to move quickly. How are we doing? The bell going to go yet? Okay, let's talk about livelihoods, income, employment programs. Again, and I will give some slides here on people with disabilities. I think the disability community has been amazing in terms of leading us to rethink the way we provide services. In fact, I wrote in the book, the chapter on disability, that social workers are increasingly seen as working for people with disabilities, not putting people with disabilities here or doing. And particularly in California, we have a very, very strong, well-organized, it's called independent living movement. And if you speak to them, they say, we don't want to be in a residential institution. We don't want to have you just give us money so we can stay in the house and watch television. We want to live a normal life like you. Why can't I go to university? We had a very famous case in the 1950s, right? Of this man who had polio, and the university told him, no, you can't come here because we don't have facility. So his social worker, actually graduate of Berkeley, said, we're going to get a lawyer. And the university said, oh, okay, you can come. Now we have many students with disability mainstream into the university, mainstream into the schools. So we can see that, again, using this approach, where we emphasize helping these people to develop the skills, to live in the community, to create a job, get a job, a regular job, or create a self-employment job that can change their lives. So I want to show very quickly the traditional use of sheltered workshops and training workshops. This is in Cyprus. It's a very well-financed training for people with disabilities. They have all kinds of things. Here is weaving and knitting, here is radio repair, and carpentry. Now, I'll come back to the carpentry in a little while. The problem with sheltered workshops for low-income countries is there is a shortage of jobs, and it's not easy to place somebody with a disability in a regular job. And so the move is increasingly towards micro-enterprises, small businesses, either run by individuals and family for family proprietorship or cooperative. We will see both. I actually, I just run through this. I mentioned the proprietors, right? This is actually when I was in the Philippines visiting the same province. They have a social assistance public welfare program where if a woman is abandoned by a husband, she doesn't have income, she has children, she can get a cash payment. So what they did in this particular case, this is her house. They helped her to start a small business. So she has a small business with her daughters come from school where they buy bananas, they dry out the banana and boil it in a very thick sweet syrup. And then they put it in a packet and it's like a candy you can buy in the streets. They don't sell themselves, they sell to the vendors. Because there are many, you've been in the Philippines, many countries, you'll see street vendors selling, so they buy from them. And the girls just came from school and the mom said, okay, you have to help pack. We're going to pack the bananas and then we're going to take it in the boxes to the vendors. This is actually her laborer. Now this was a woman who was in poverty, destitute, right? She came on the social work program, on the social welfare program. They gave her cash, but they told her, let's try and develop a small business that you can do. So, I'm always amazed that the social workers are like MBAs, they come up with all kinds of ideas, entrepreneurial, enterprising ideas. She makes enough money to hire a worker who does the hard work in the yard. You see the boiling of the syrup for the bananas there. And she is now living a normal life. She has, as she told me, I have a meaning in my life now. My husband went away, he left me, I was in poverty, I was very depressed. Now I have a meaning in my life. My two daughters are going to school regularly. I have a good income for her, of course a small income for us. But here we now, social workers are addressing her livelihood need. And we will see many more. This program also in the Philippines in the same area for people who sight problems, blind people or semi-blind people. And you can see there is a man in a white shirt and a bicycle. Okay, he is a paraprofessional worker. And he has been trained to go into the community. He visits about 20 blind people. He has to cycle a lot because only maybe one village has one. And then he will meet the person, and first thing he teaches is mobility skills. How can you walk by yourself? How can you go by yourself? You don't have to have a child. You'll see in many countries, children are taken out of school so they can be the guide for somebody who is blind. And so we went to the house, and there he is with his client, and actually he is teaching her dressmaking, which I thought was a very good gender reversal. The man teaching the woman dressmaking. She is in the village now making all kinds of clothes and dresses for christening for baby, for wedding dresses, although she told me the wedding dresses are quite hard to make. And here she is making, I think, something for a baby. Now, she lives in the village. In the old days, we put in a residential institution for blind people. Now she lives a normal life in the village, part of the village community, and accepted, and has a small income, which is enough for her and her little girl to go to the school. And you can see she has a big smile. She is very happy with her life and very happy with it. the man who came to teach her skills. The woman on the right-hand side is a chief social worker in the province, and she told me, I want you to visit this man. He's a blind man. Nobody knows where he came from, but he just like a vagrant, a wanderer. He goes to one village, he sleeps outside the village, he begs for money, begs for food, and lives there. Now, the program, you remember the map I showed you earlier, about the war room map? They did a survey of all people who are blind and disabled. And they found him. They go to the village, anybody here with a disability? Said, yes, he's living there. So they went to talk to him. And they put him in a training program. And you see, he makes these little baskets for platters. And he sells them to the vendors for fish. You know, when you go to McDonald's to buy a hamburger and you take it out, here in the Philippines, they probably don't have McDonald's now, in those days, they buy fish. They have very good fish in the Philippines, if you do that. And so these little plates are used, they put a banana leaf, and then the fish on the street, he's barbecue. Okay, I only have 3 minutes, so what should I do? Because I can't, you know, we only started at 10 to 10. Yeah, we have to go longer because, I mean, I had to wait for the other people to speak. Let me try and go very quickly. So anyway, he does this, and he is now living in the village, and that is his house. This was a man who was living outside the village and begging. He now has his own house, and he has a stove. As you can see, the stove is made in a way so he can't burn his hand, because he has to put the fire from the side. All right, there are many other examples. This was a social worker in India who should have had an MBA. He was always thinking up new jobs. Old lady, husband died. She was left without any money. So he borrowed money, got money from the social assistants for her to start a spice shop. This is very interesting. This is a man who's a polio victim. He lives with his family. He's not very poor, but he just stays in the house. Don't forget there's a lot of stigma for people with disability. So the man in the pink cap, he got the idea to make him a tricycle so he can pedal with his hands. And behind his seat is a battery, a motor car battery, and a record player. Because in those days, we still had records. And he is a disc jockey. So if you have a wedding, you send somebody to his house. Can you come on Sunday? We are having a wedding. Can you please bring wedding music? Or you send somebody, oh, my uncle died. We need music for the funeral. Very sad music. Oh, we are having a party. And he's very happy. And he told me he does so many of this jockey things. Again, the point is that he now has a livelihood. He wasn't put dump in the institution. He has an opportunity to live in the community. Okay, well, there are many other slides. Let me just show you the carpenters. This was in the Cyprus workshop. Now, unlike the ones where we saw the single proprietor business run by the woman on her own, these were all trained in the carpentry shop, and they started their own cooperative. And in Nicosia, the capital, they have an export business. They make furniture like that. They have a showroom, and you can visit the showroom. And again, they have livelihood. They have an opportunity to live a good life. Okay, I'm going to show this one, and probably I think we will lead our community development. But this one is a very interesting one in South Africa. But I had a good opportunity to visit. So I went with a professor from the university here, Lagos University, her name is Antoinette Mambala. And she drove me to see this project. And we met the social worker. Social workers just like me and you. And she was doing mostly child welfare with very poor women and trying to help these women. And she heard that these women are going down to the main street, the main road, the highway, that links the city of Johannesburg, which is a big city in the center of the country, to the game park. And a lot of tourists come. Fly to Johannesburg, they stay in a nice hotel, have a dinner, then they go on the bus coach, and they go to the game park to see the elephants, lions, and tigers, and, no, not tigers, right? Panthers, all kinds of wonderful animals. And the bus, the coach, stops about halfway for lunch. And the hotel owner, he prepares lunch, and tourists come have a lunch. And then she heard her clients are going to the hotel and trying to sell some little wooden carving of a giraffe or a little mask they carve themselves. And she said, she told them, what are you doing? She said, no, we are trying to make a little money. And the tourists will buy from us. But she realized the quality is not very good. So she decided, now imagine, just a social worker dealing with this. She's going to go speak to the business community in this town, Chamber of Commerce. She went to visit the hotel owner. She said, what about the land next to your hotel? We can build a craft center. We will have training for the women to learn how to make quite nice, better quality materials. And then the tourists will come and buy, and we will take a loan from the business community, and then we will pay it back. So that's what they did. And there it is, the little elephant craft center. And those are the shops. All the women there's only one man in the car for you. All the women there are making their own crafts and selling. And this one woman, my wife, this is my wife. And my wife is from India originally, the family is from India, so they are like always bargaining. You know? And I tell them, don't bargain, it's embarrassing. But she bargained with this lady. You see, the lady's not very happy. Right? But she got a good price. And we have a basket in our house now in California. When my wife goes to the supermarket, she takes that same basket, so always memories. That's the social worker. Her name is Lynette. And this is the only man in the cooperative. He was released from prison after serving a sentence for robbery with violence. And she managed to get special. And he's an artist, a natural painter. So he paints. Going down again. Okay, I'm going to end now anyway. So. Here again, you can see, for me, the commitment of the social worker. A social worker who is dealing with very poor people, but coming up with new ideas. And here it's community-based. Here it's livelihoods. Here it's social capital, because the people in the community, the women working together now, they get trainings, human capital, all investments that give these women a very different life that they can enjoy in the same way that we can. It's a very sad one note that Lynette died of breast cancer, and now today the center is still there, the craft center, but they lacking leadership from the social worker. Well, I have another 90 slides. I'm not going to show them. Thank you very much. I hope you got some idea about developmental social work. Thank you very much.
谢谢 Jim 的演讲啊，我刚刚也听得旺盛的哈，所以刚刚也在下午我自己都忘掉时间。我今天实在是很幸运啊，然后Jim过来啊，跟我们分享啊这个社会关系的工作，在世界各地推动。
How it is being implemented around the world. This is very valuable experience. In the next 2 days, with James' permission and also the other foreign experts, permission, you can come and visit some of the empowering projects Eden runs, and then you can take some photos. So next time you go to the other places to talk, you can show our photos as well, and that would be a great way to exchange with each other. According to the agenda, we should break at 10:40 and break for 10 minutes. It looks like we still have a bit of time right now, so we will open up the floor for questions. We have simultaneous interpreters, so feel free to ask either in English or Chinese. So great opportunity for you to ask James any questions. It's a great opportunity. Please make good use of the time. We know that Asian people tend to be very shy. We start with silence, but at the end, and there's a lot of interaction. So let's start right now.
Okay. I saw during the speech, you talked about the micro enterprise and family employees, workers, and they can make some products by themselves and sell them to some people, some agents, and I wonder how can they compete with some big enterprise as their product seems as just as a normal sales. The big enterprise can also produce same stuff. That is my question.
Well, I think that for me, what's very interesting that people like the next, the social worker here on the slide, are so innovative and so entrepreneurial, real social enterprises, individual social entrepreneurs, that they can find a niche, as you know, we call niche, some opportunity that can be used. Actually, in the Philippines, and think about the Philippines, I saw that family. It's not, a long term, but it lifts them above poverty. The children go to school. The children will, if they continue to go to school, get educated. The mother may move to something else. She might develop the business. Who knows? But take, again, this job. In India. If I was a social worker, I would never think about that. It's amazing to me that in social work we have so many people who are so creative, and if they are in a situation where they're not doing the kind of routine that I did, fill out the form, go to the court, get an order, put the child in an institution, take the next case, fill out the form, go to the court. But I have an opportunity to do innovative things in a community setting that looks at livelihoods, that looks at investment. It's just amazing what these people come up with. Now, let's take the case of the Little Elephant Craft Center. Yeah, they make quite a lot of these crafts themselves, but I also learned that they actually also buy them and resell them. And actually, one of the women, they had some tourists coming, I think, from France. And the tourist was a dealer of antiques and these things. And she was so impressed with the work that she invited the woman, this African woman, almost illiterate, very poor, to come to Paris and bring her crafts there. Now, of course, we must remember that the slides I'm showing are the success stories. We know from statistics that most micro-enterprises don't succeed. Mohammed Yunus claims 90% are successful. Actually, more careful research has shown that that is a wild overestimation. And in fact, many micro-enterprises close, like most small businesses. Business community will tell us. And the schools of business schools will tell us. There's always a recycling. So we are not seeing the cases here that were not successful. And what happened when they were not successful? This may be an opportunity for more research in the future in developmental social work. what conditions make success, what conditions don't. But I think that, it's a good point that of course, if they're going to try and take on a well-established business, that's not where to go. It is to go for the niche, for the new opportunity.
Thank you.
做的演讲啊，是请大家热烈掌声，谢谢他。
With that, let's end this session. Thank you to Professor Fu, and thank you so much, Professor James, eventually for your very insightful speech. Thank you. In the second keynote speech, we are about to hear some experiences from South Africa. 那接下来呢，我们进入到第2场的专题演讲哦。And for that, let's welcome our moderator, Dr. Bingo Huang, member of Board of Directors, Eden Social Welfare Foundation. 我们首先欢迎我们的主持人，伊甸社会福利基金会黄秉德常务董事，掌声欢迎。
各位大家好，今天很高兴。
Hello everyone. It is with great delight that we welcome to the second keynote speech, Professor Lai Lam. She will introduce herself, followed by her speech. The session will last roughly 45 minutes, and then we will open up the floor 45 to 50 minutes. As far as I know, there is an English translation as well as Chinese translation, so please use your headset. I will quickly introduce Professor Laila Patel. She is from the Johannesburg University of the Witwatersrand. She received her PhD there, and she is a director and professor at the Center of Social Development and the University of Johannesburg Social Development Studies in Auckland Park. She has worked extensively in the social work area, and she is widely respected in South Africa and the UK. If you've had a chance to read her autobiography, you would know that she was involved in the actual practice of social work in her earlier years, and she received her professional training at the university. Then she became involved in teaching at the university as well as in research. I've also noticed that she has been involved as a Director General in South Africa. So that attests to her extensive practical experience. I also see that in a lot of important social work topics, including children, women, poverty, community development, she is all very experienced. She is widely published. So it is quite an honor for us to have such a decorated and experienced person in both practice and academics, a professor and administrator. So what a great opportunity. Please, with your women's
for Social Development in Africa, University of Johannesburg, South Africa.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here this morning. And thank you for the introduction. I didn't understand very much what you said. And I was asked to perhaps introduce myself again. But I think that most of you have heard who I am and what I do. So I am the director of the Center for Social Development in Africa at the University of Johannesburg. I'm a professor of social work, and I'm a student, one of the many students of Jimmy Mitchell's, and there are many around the world like me. We followed in his footsteps, and he's retired this year, and he's made a great contribution to the social work profession. So I'm delighted to be here to celebrate that with you too, Jimmy. So let me start I have quite a bit of time to say what I need to say, but perhaps if I can shorten it, then there will be more time for questions. So, before I do so, let me also just say thank you to the Eden Foundation, Social Welfare Foundation, and the National University of Taiwan for this opportunity to be here. Now, social work is much valued in South Africa as a profession. It goes back to the 1930s, when the first welfare policy of the country was adopted, and which then laid the basis for the establishment of the social work profession. We share some similarities with Taiwan, and I've not been able to find a lot of written material on social work in your country, so I'm happy to be here and to learn more about it. But the little that I have gleaned and read suggests that we share some things in common. This is firstly that you have a large non-governmental sector that delivers welfare services and employs social workers. That is very similar to our situation in South Africa. Secondly, I think we have a shared commitment to human development. And I say so because I'm sure you're very proud of the achievements of your country in being, in a short space of time, to have achieved a high human development index. I think in 2014, Taiwan was 25th out of 188 countries. And that's certainly a great achievement. South Africa, however, is different in that sense, in that we still sit far down. We are at 125. And I will explain to you a lot more about our human development situation as we proceed. But in both countries, I think there is a strong commitment to human development and to support for the poor and vulnerable people and those with special needs. Now, since the institution of democracy in South Africa in 1994, under the leadership of our much-loved former President Nelson Mandela, and I think many of you know him. Do you know and remember Nelson Mandela? We became a constitutional democracy. And that occurred in 1994, and I will show you the slides in a moment. So, as a result of this, a new approach to social welfare was born, along with the new South African. And the White Paper for Social Welfare, which was the country's new welfare policy, adopted in 1997, became the new policy framework for the country. And this is the policy framework within which social work is practiced today. And that policy framework is the developmental approach, or the social development approach to social welfare. And of course, from that flows developmental social work. The purpose of the presentation is then to share the South African case with you of developmental welfare and social work and how it is being applied in our own country. We too have achieved a lot, a great deal, I think, in fact, if I look back on where we were and who we were as a country and where we are now. But we still have a very long way to go. So let me then start my presentation with those few introductory remarks. So today we are learning from how social development is implemented around the world. And I think that James Mitchell's work, we learn from his work about social development as a general approach to social welfare and to social work. But in different countries, social development is being implemented, taking its own historical conditions, its particular cultural realities, its social and economic and political context into account. So every country, as it were, I would say, that is following the social development approach and ideas, that it would, I would argue, it exists with different nuances and in different ways in those countries. So I don't know if there is one blueprint. It may build on all of these principles that James Mitchell spoke about this morning, but it's also very specific to that country and its history. Secondly, as I said, social development is also an approach that is now being implemented around the world and adopted by the International Association of Schools of Social Work. I don't know if many of you were at the conference in Australia in 2014, where the new definition of social work was adopted by schools of social work. And there the idea of social development was, as an organizing framework for social work, was formalized. So the message then to us is to look at how do we apply these principles and ideas in our own countries. So much may be learned from the implementation of social development in different countries and contexts, and how it is shaped by those specific political, economic, social, cultural, and historical legacies shape also the direction that social work and social development takes, and how it is understood in those countries and applied in practice. So the structure of my presentation today will follow 4 basic points that I would like to focus on. The first is to share the South African case with you. Just a brief background and history. There's a long story to tell, but I'll tell you the shortened version. The adoption of the developmental approach and how we understand it, and then the challenges of implementation. Given this background, I want to then move on to what I've developed or called the social development practice model. How does it look? How do you apply this in practice? How does it look in theory and practice? And then I've selected 2 practice examples that address an issue that's of issues of global significance, and some quick conclusions. Now, South Africa, and I read the history of Taiwan, that you too were a Dutch colony for a short period in the 17th century. I think it was 1623, if I'm correct. We became a Dutch colony in 1652 when Cape Town was the trading station for Dutch settlers on their way to the east. And later on we became a British colony. Now, our history follows many wars of contestation by the indigenous people, the African peoples, against colonial rule. And also the Khoisan people, who are indigenous people who lived at the Cape even before the people from Africa migrated to South Africa. These wars were also waged between the indigenous people themselves, as well as between the settlers, the Dutch and the British settlers. This resulted in the dispossession of people's land and their livelihoods, poverty and discrimination, because the white settlers considered themselves to be a superior race. And so racial inequality, therefore, continues to remain South Africa's greatest challenge. We have different population groups. African people who make up the majority of the population, over 80%. Then we have people of Indian origin and people of mixed, what is called mixed race. They referred to as colored people, and then whites. There are quite a lot of Chinese now who have migrated to South Africa, but who have been in South Africa also historically. So the country has rich mineral wealth, which was the engine of industrialization. They discovered gold and diamonds in Johannesburg, which then gave rise to the emergence of Johannesburg. I'm sure you've all heard of the city of Johannesburg, which is also known as one of the kind of hubs on the continent of Africa. Urbanization, of course, developed as mining, gold and diamond mining developed in the 19th century, and of course all the associated problems that we see elsewhere in the world when industrialization and urbanization occurs. So in terms of welfare policy, a welfare state then evolved over time for whites, and I'll explain a little bit later about this. But when I speak of the welfare state, then it's the welfare state modeled on the British welfare state, as we were previously a British colony, and a residual welfare system, limited welfare provision and state provision for Black Africans, Coloureds and Indians. Now this is especially so when the Afrikaner Nationalist Party came to power, which was a party of Afrikaans-speaking people of Dutch background who won the elections in 1948, and they then became they were the Nationalist Party, and they became the ruling party in South Africa. They continued, of course, on building on the racial policies and discrimination of the settlers before them, but they implemented a very harsh form of discrimination, which we call apartheid. It was a system that was mandated by law, that discriminated against people of Indian, Coloured and African descent. And I was born well into when apartheid was already established after 1948. And I grew up and spent most of my adult life growing up under apartheid. So this system then entrenched was a system basically of separate development for different race groups, because it was argued that if you allowed people to live together as one country, then it would create too much conflict and tension. Today the world is different. We're embracing diversity, and we're arguing too, that diversity is what enriches us as nations. But that was the apartheid thinking that was entrenched in laws, and it then limited people's opportunities and the development of their human capabilities. During this time, so we see social work taking off after 1936. The first welfare department is formed and being modelled on Western social work as it's evolved in Britain and in later years in the United States. From what I've read, I see that your country has also followed a similar trajectory of a diffusion of Western American, First World British and American models of social work. And that is very much the case in South Africa. That we used Western textbooks, we knew the earlier writers of social work, as well as those students who studied it in America and in Britain. So that was the kind of social work training we had, irrespective of the conditions of the country in which we lived. This resulted in the adoption of an inappropriate model of social work practice in our context. And I will explain a little bit later why I say so. It also relied, as Jimmy Mitchell explained, on an over-reliance on a social treatment approach. And South Africa was not unusual in that institutions were created for the elderly, The children's homes were created. People with disabilities were institutionalized, the mentally ill, and so on. And social casework as a method of social work intervention was the most dominant form. The focus was also on individualizing people's social problems and not recognizing that some of these problems are shared by many more people, and so they are bigger public issues for the society to deal with, such as poverty and inequality, or substance abuse, crime and violence, and so on. Child neglect is a big problem. This also, I believe, is an inadequate response to social treatment model, because you're searching for solutions that lie within the individual. And while human agency is important, I do believe that that is not sufficient to address the social and economic challenges that people face. So we see them as and I see it as an inadequate response to poverty and vulnerability, the high rates of unemployment, social inequality, discrimination that exists in our own country and in service provision. And I'll share with you some of the poverty figures a little later. Now, South Africa, because it was a colonial, a British colony, and then later ruled by a sector of the privileged white group, as it were, resistance to apartheid and colonialism has a long history, dating back to 1912, when various liberation movements were formed, and today the ruling African National Party was one of these liberation movements that was formed in 1912, the African National Congress. So, I move on then to the struggles of people for democracy and for a just society, and how that then shaped our welfare system. As you will see, these are pictures of how community struggles in the 1980s shaped the social development agenda and the kind of welfare system that evolved in a post-apartheid South Africa and in 1994. So there is a call for education, for people's education. There is, in the corner there, you'll see is Grassroots. There's a community newspaper of which I was involved with. And you see the Atlantic Arms of it many years ago in the 1980s. And I was the editor and organizer of this community newspaper that was being the voice of communities, raising their issues and concerns for washing lines, because there were no washing lines in the townships, electricity, affordable rents, for decent wages and for jobs, for equal education, for creches and healthcare. And they spoke to the needs of ordinary people who wanted simply a better life. And this lady here in the cartoon through the newspaper, oops, there we go. This lady here says in the cartoon, can anybody hear me? So through this newspaper, people told these stories about their struggles and problems, and they shared with others how they were involved in finding solutions to these issues and concerns. Some ran advice offices here, they're giving advice on how to get social assistance and so on. Moving on then, we see here President Nelson Mandela at his inauguration in 1994, which was an absolutely momentous day for South Africans. I was invited with my husband to attend, and we all left at 4 o'clock in the morning on the buses to the capital to go and witness the inauguration of Nelson Mandela, who was always a proud symbol to us all and what he stood for. And there he is being sworn in by This is the former President de Klerk, who was from the Afrikaner Nationalist Party, and the reconciliation that they tried to build in a negotiated settlement and agreement on a constitutional democracy. You see here also former President Thabo Mbeki. He followed Nelson Mandela as our president for about 8 years. And this is the gathering at the Union Buildings. And these are the people in the crowds who were very, very happy on that great day. So this is the creation of a democracy and the birth of a new nation. It was a powerful unifying force to get people to sit around the table and to find solutions to their problems, political problems, their economic and social problems. And I suppose South Africa is still recognized as an excellent example of a country where people who fought many wars over many years who tried to find a solution to come together. So I think there's a different story to tell about that, but that is not what I'm going to be talking about today. So the promise then of a new nation and a new vision for social welfare, which was encapsulated, as I said, in the white paper for welfare, and also this resulted then in the review of social welfare legislation. So we adopted the New Children's Act, for example. We revised all our laws, and by a stroke of a pen, in 2 or 3 lines, we were able to remove from a lot of the legislation anything that had to do with discrimination, because there was unequal access to resources. So the key social development programs that the white paper mandated, or policies, were social protection. And this I mean, at the world now everybody's speaking about social protection floors of the International Labour Organization. Have you all heard about the social protection floors? The National Social Protection Floor? No? Okay, so the ILO is trying to promote this idea that different countries should strive to achieve a basic standard of living for everybody. We used to speak of it as social security before, but now it includes, the term has been broadened to speak of social protection. South Africa did have a social assistance program before for the elderly, for people with disabilities, and for children and single parents prior to 1994. And post-94, these programs were expanded. It also includes a comprehensive set of welfare services for various populations that are vulnerable, children and families, youth, older persons, people with disabilities, women, people affected and infected by HIV and AIDS. And South Africa is one of the largest HIV infection prevalence rates in the world, and chronic illnesses. So the vision then of the white paper for welfare also included an overall package of services. So besides social protection and welfare services, it also included free universal primary health care for pregnant women and children, early childhood development, compulsory basic education, school feeding. We have a large school feeding program with 9.9 million poor children receiving free lunch every day, housing for the poor, basic services such as access to water, electricity, and sanitation, and this has expanded significantly to well over 80% from under 40% in 1994. Public employment schemes, public works, and I'm sure you also have public works programs in your country. So in theory, an integrated range of social policies and services were to work together to address historical disadvantages and respond to the new needs and challenges of people. But South Africa has numerous economic problems institutional problems, fiscal problems, budget constraints, governance difficulties because how the country is governed and efficiently and effectively, and also social problems that have impacted on our ability to implement the new approach. Let me just find my slides. So we've got persistently, so 20 years later, after the institution of democracy and the adoption of the White Paper for Welfare in 1997, and the paper has just been reviewed. So over 20 years, we faced many big macro challenges in our country. So we've had persistently low economic growth rates since 1994. We had very good growth between 2002 and 2008 when we reached almost 5%. But other than that, our growth rate was about an average of 2% since 1994. And currently, and since the global economic crisis in 2008, the growth rate has declined considerably, and this year we sit at about 0.5% growth. So it's almost zero growth rates. And the projection doesn't look very good going forward. So we are working in a constrained economic environment with very high unemployment rates. 25% of the population would be officially unemployed, and about 37% would be unemployed if you use a broader definition of people who are unemployed for more than a week, more than a month. So that is a huge constraint. Global factors, we live in a global world, so it's not so easy for countries to find solutions because the economies are impacted by those factors. We also see through globalization and the rise of technology that countries are moving to more skilled economic growth with high skills levels. So we're driving, university education, but almost 50% of the people, 40% of people are poor. Up to 50% if you take different poverty measures, with very low levels of education, secondary education only. So our economy is not generating jobs for people at the bottom end of the pyramid, as it were. And if we can't have an economic growth plan or path that will absorb all these people, then I think we will have a large portion of our population trapped in poverty for a long time to come. And that is a very huge challenge. Our achievements, despite achievements in education, for example, as I said, in access to basic services has improved considerably, but we also see that education, school attendance has improved, with almost 93% of children now go to school, which was not the case before. So school attendance has improved, but now we have the added problem that the quality of the education is poor. We have access to health, but we also have huge impact since the early 90s and growth of the HIV/AIDS epidemic, which has left us with large numbers of orphans, single-parent families, very sick people to care for, and that has impacted on our mortality rates. And life expectancy was declined significantly. In 1994 it was 56, and in 2005 it dropped to under 50. So that has had a big impact on our human development indicators, and that is the single factor that has brought down our human development index. And of course, our income levels have improved, but not significantly, sufficiently so. We do now have the adoption of, government has adopted the policy of access to antiretroviral treatments, and we're one of the few countries in the world with the largest antiretroviral treatment program. 3 million people on antiretrovirals. Very expensive to do. The epidemic is slowing in the country, but we also see other problems in that the prevention rates are still not what they should be. So we've got a huge task in driving prevention, HIV prevention. In addition, as you saw those, excuse me. As you saw those pictures of that excitement in 1994 at Nelson Mandela's inauguration, now people feel 20 years later that there are no jobs. They feel their lives are impacted. And there's a huge discrepancy between the expectations of what they've hoped for and what is being achieved in their everyday lives. So we also now, in recent years, in the last 8 years or so, there's been growing concerns about government corruption and loss of huge financial resources through corruption. And all of this is, at the moment, there's a lot of protest going on. Social workers, in fact, 20,000 social workers marched to the government offices about 6 weeks ago. And the other day there was a big march of social workers who protested against the death of mentally ill people in NGO facilities because government wanted to cut back on the cost of the services. So there's a lot of contestation going on in the country at the moment. So I would say that if I look back at a country that has adopted a developmental approach to social welfare, that our approach has only been partially implemented. But that we have some major programs and progress that was made. So we expanded social assistance significantly, and it now reaches 40% of the poor in South Africa. That is 3.5% of gross domestic product. Yes, large 4 out of 10 households would have a person who receives one or other social assistance, public assistance from the government. And I believe that in Taiwan you do have public assistance and cash transfers. This leads, but with this program increasing and the economy not growing and resources being constrained, it has also crowded out spending on other services, such as welfare services. So the social work services, the traditional social work services, have declined in funding. Attempts are being made to address it, but with a model that is as expensive when you do casework and residential care, you are really not going to reach the numbers of people that we should be reaching. So I think that there are limitations there. So why is this the case? Why is the approach only being partially implemented? I think from the perspective, from the social work and social welfare perspective, it's a lack of knowledge and skills of how to implement the new approach. So I think Professor Mitchell shows and tells a very story to explain it in the simplest ways that he could. But many people in South Africa still say that they found this to be difficult. The knowledge was difficult to understand it, because social workers have a particular mindset. We were trained in a particular way. And we should not underestimate how powerful the Western training in social work has been in South Africa. And so shifting that mindset to reach large numbers of people and to have a higher impact with our intervention is not been achieved. Sorry, I thought that I had 55 minutes. I've got another, according to my watch, 10 minutes. But I'll go through this faster. Okay? Okay, I'll be quick. But I think despite this, that this is still a very relevant approach for social development in South Africa. Given the economic situation, the global factors I raised, we've got a lot of violence and safety and security issues, climate change that we see, not perhaps like your experience, but we've had a very bad drought which has impacted on food security recently. We've had high rates of regional migration from Southern Africa and Africa into South Africa, and also rising xenophobia. And so human diversity and the great challenge of living together. Now, global knowledge development, therefore, for social development remains a great priority going ahead. So how do we grow developmental social work? And I think one of the key questions everybody asks is, what is developmental social work and how might it be implemented? So I got a copy of my book here, which documents how we do it in South Africa and the theory, and you've got that in the presentation outline. So I'm not going to deal with all of the detail in the slides, but I will just go through it very briefly. So I'll move on now to the social development practice model. So this is a model that has 4 components, and it's very understandable to social workers. In that social workers always have a mandate, whether it is a public mandate, a mandate from the communities that they serve, or the profession. We have knowledge, and we have skills, and we have values that drive our profession. The second box, as you will see there, speaks to the organizing themes, which are the themes that Professor Mitchell referred to in his talk. And then there are different modes and multiple modes of intervention. There isn't only one way. And then, based on that, we would apply what every social worker knows, uses as a plan change process to implement and design your intervention, where there's the engagement, the exploration and assessment, your goal setting and planning, evaluation, implementation, termination, and follow-through. So I see it as a 2-stage model, and that basically sets it out. The organizing themes in the South African context, we have 4 themes, which is the rights-based, or 5 themes. South Africa is a rights-based approach. Our constitution guarantees rights, social rights to social security and to services and to children's rights, and the right to equality. We draw on the theory of developmental welfare. We also focus our approaches driven by participation. It's a pluralistic approach in that it works with individuals, families, groups, communities, and also governments and resources from the private sector. It's not only state, but the state plays a leading role in partnership. So partnership work is very important to us. And then we try to find a connection between individuals and their bigger, wider environment, the interaction of the person and the environment. I'm going to move on to the last set of slides. There's a slide there which sets out the theory of developmental social work and describes the different kinds of theories that we use. It's not only one theory that guides what we do in developmental social work, but we work with environmental theories, person-focused theories, development theories, and all of this helps us to understand the person in their context and to find the solutions. We use multiple modes of intervention and combinations such as poverty reduction and sustainable livelihoods. We use family-centered and community-based strategies. We use community and information, education strategies, as well as social policy and planning and advocacy. And this is the kind of model of multiple modes. And in the center there's the intersection where some of these modes overlap. We can work in different modes simultaneously or a combination of some. I hope that makes sense to you. And where we work with different client groups, it's not just with an individual, but with different client groups of different sizes and with different social problems and issues. So 2 quick things I wanted to tell you about, and there won't be time to do that, is on the child support grant, which reaches 11 million children. And what we have done was to look at how to scale up the impact of the grant. So 25% of grant beneficiaries are involved in livelihood activities. They do economic development activities. And there you see the gentleman sewing, because fathers can also get a grant if they are single fathers, not only mothers. And there is a mother doing some cooking and selling things on the streets. So they're combining both cash transfers with livelihood activities. We've moved on now to design a family intervention, which is a preventative intervention to combine cash care of families and also livelihoods and building economic capabilities. So that is how we are trying to scale up the use of the social development approach through using cash care and family programs. The other one is youth employment. We have 55% of young people unemployed between 15 and 24-year-old. 3.5 million are not in education, training or employment. And so we've launched a major research study on this. And we have run an intervention to evaluate the youth employability programs in South Africa that are being delivered by government, NGOs and the private sector. And we have found through this that these interventions have resulted in improvements in their employability and also their self-esteem. So by helping people with their economic development needs and building their capabilities, we also see that it improves the care of caregivers' engagement with their children, and we also see how that is improving the self-esteem of caregivers and young people. Let me just move on then, lastly, to a few concluding remarks. Is that I think it's important for us to share our cross-country experiences as we are doing at this conference, and hopefully we will all find our own paths to developmental social work. Thank you.
Just a reminder, if you finish your talk, please turn off the microphone so that it won't be interfering for the interpreters. Thank you. 那有请各位贵宾可以提问。
Yes, I'm Dr. Xun from Hong Kong, and also from Yunnan. And actually, we are also practicing developmental social work, and we try to overview the literature. I think many of the literature is much more like in the meso level, that is the policy program. Most of them are description of the policy program. So what we concern is about is the micro and meso level. For example, when a social worker wants to conduct this, scale up this cash transfer program, for example, in certain co-ops, and also in a kind of work program. So there are certain challenges I think the traditional social work cannot provide. For example, how to deal with, for example, there's some conflict arose from the distribution of benefit among the members of the co-op, and also they intensify some of the relationship between this woman worker and the other colleagues. And so I just wonder whether there are certain, for example, documentation, especially from the South African context, of these types of developing the best practice, and then to be scaled up a little bit towards the policy model, and then and can be shared among, for example, other practitioners in China or others as well. Because I think for every countries, there's a lot of similarities that we share. That is very important that we have to face the issues of poverty, livelihood, and sustainability, and then how to make use of the community resources, trying to share the resources among themselves and also try to make self-provision available. So this is my question.
Thank you for that. I think it is a huge challenge to find ways to scale up the impact of cash transfer programs with livelihood strategies. I've given you the two examples that we've used, but I must say that in South Africa there are programs that are running, they're not deliberately designed to scale it up. So you do have the kind of livelihoods programs that Professor Mitchell spoke about, with lots of those. People do it automatically, but from government side they haven't found a policy mechanism to support people to scale up the program. So what we've done in our research study is to design a family intervention that we've tested, and we will be scaling up through the city of Johannesburg in about 12 of the local authorities, and they will be our partner. And then we will be evaluating that, and we will hope to share that with everybody. So hopefully we'll learn from that what it costs to implement it. The problem is that social workers start with wanting to give support to the individual grant beneficiary. So, maybe I don't need this. So in Brazil, they've scaled up, they've tried to scale up their Bolsa Familia with social workers visiting families and then individually providing support. What we're trying to do is to work with groups of families in training programs to look at what are the kind of family support, relationship building, discipline, supervision, communication, skills the families need to work with the children. But we've included a component on livelihoods and capabilities. So they do savings, they do financial literacy education, and those who are running livelihoods programs, that they will be supported. If this is found to be a viable way of doing it, rather than going to give each family individual casework support, and we've costed it also, and we would have to tweak the costing models, we may be able to say to government, here is something to do.
Thank you for sharing the South African case with us. Okay, I'm Xianrong from Yunnan Province, China. We've been also working with the developmental model for some time. More than 10 years ago, back to 2002, actually, I have read literature from South Africa, actually talking about the difficulties or challenges of senior students to do the internship in the rural area under the developmental model. How is that case now? How our experiences in this area has been influencing or impacting on the curriculum development in training the social workers in this development in South African context? Thank you.
Social work training is a huge challenge. The changes have occurred, but they're very slow. The government has last year evaluated the SOTA curriculum again, and I had the privilege of being a critical reader of the programs across the country and to comment on it. And I think while some schools of social work have adjusted their programs, others have really done so little. So that remains a big challenge. And if social work educators are not training, and if the social workers in the agencies haven't been able to make a change, then we have a huge challenge. So one of the things I maybe want to emphasize that could have got lost when I was speaking is the one big lesson I learned is that if we're wanting to make a big change, systems change in the approach to social work from the treatment approach to the developmental approach, then we need to put in place very big change management systems and processes to make it work. Without that, left to people voluntarily, it is not going to work. You need the incentives to change it in the universities and for recognition, the funding of the agencies, you know, to support the process, as well as the training of social workers who felt that we were taking something away from them and that they were specialists as caseworkers and in their specialized knowledge. And we say, no, we're not disregarding that. How do you use that to reach more people and make a larger impact? So it's not easy.
And so I think in developmental social work, I think there's and also in other similar traditions from development studies, even it is quite Eurocentric in a sense. But I think development studies can, or development work can also provide a kind of legal background of different types of poverty issues to be solved. And so what do you see the potential of how development work can go hand in hand with social work to develop developmental social work in this case?
I would agree entirely with you. I think there's a good fit there, whether it be with sociology. Traditionally it has been psychology and sociology. But I think that the infusion of development theory into social work will strengthen developmental social work enormously. Because social workers are practically doing development work through community work that they've done historically, group work. I think social workers have those skills. They have the skills of working with individuals and how to relate to people. So I think those are very powerful skills. We tend to also neglect knowledge of social planning, because social workers in South Africa, and I'm sure in your country, write proposals for large government grants or for private sector grants for millions of dollars, but they don't know how to design programs that will be different to what they were previously. So I think that these are new sets of knowledge and skills. In our context, given the fact that we are a very divided society in our history, conflict resolution and mediation and peace building skills are important. So in different countries there will be different challenges that will determine what the real skill set is. But we don't teach conflict resolution and mediation in social work schools in South Africa. We don't. But we should, because there's so much disruption, and one could create a more stable society if you have the skills to diffuse conflict in communities.
好，那我们这个场次呢就到这边，我们就是再次掌声谢谢我们的主持人黄立德。Thank you so much to our moderator and also the speaker, Lena Patel.